Hi there guys, how's it going? My name's The Reaper, and in today's video I'm going to be taking the butchers at the Alpha of Realm Royale. So what is Realm Royale? You'd be forgiven for thinking, if you just watched some just gameplay footage of this game, that it was actually Fortnite, or maybe a mod of Fortnite. That isn't the case. This is an entirely separate game from any other Battle Royale game, although it is a Battle Royale game because of course we didn't have anywhere near enough of those on the market already, but here we are with Realm Royale. So bear in mind, as I've said, we are in the Alpha and we are in Early Access, so bear in mind everything I say is subject to change. And this is not the final finished product of the game, so things can be improved and developed. Bear in mind, this is not a final copy of the game. There are still many changes to come. All the information in this video, I believe, is correct as of Wednesday the 27th of June, so that's the kind of patch I'm operating on, is the one just after then. If I do make any mistakes, I will try to point them out with an annotation or some other form of correction. Other than that, if I do make any other kind of errors or say something that's incorrect, please do feel free to correct me in the comments. Other than that, we're going to jump into a game and we're going to show off as objectively as we can, as we always do, how we can play a game of Realm Royale. Okay, so I've just jumped myself into a solo game just to make the gameplay a bit easier to show off and just makes the video a bit smoother. However, if you do have some friends you want to play with, you can play either duo or squad mode as well, so you do have that option, which is nice, despite the kind of alpha setting of the game. So each time you start a new game, regardless of what mode it is or what kind of game type it is, you can get a choice of each of the 5 classes. Each one's got a unique passive ability. Each one's got a unique class-based legendary weapon. You've got unique class-based movement spell, is what I was trying to say. And you've got 4 unique spells as well, so you can choose from any of those. I'm going to go with the engineer because it's my particular favourite. And as you can see, we didn't have to wait too long once we actually got into the game to actually wait for the game to start. I did cut out the loading time of the video and the queue time as well, but both of those only take about 10 to 15 seconds in my experience, which is quite nice. It seems fairly stable and you don't have to wait too long for a game, so that is quite nice. That you can get into a game quite quickly if you want, and if you do die you can jump into a new one and you don't have to wait too long, which is quite nice. So here's our map. As with basically every Battle Royale game now, there is a airship you're going to be jumping out of, or an aircraft of some sort, which is going to be our kind of blimp thing in this case. And we're going to jump out on the map. We're going to jump over to Ice Haven here, which is a bit off the beaten track of the aircraft, but we can just about reach that, and hopefully we'll have a bit more time to ourselves, so it'll be a bit quieter if we fly a bit further out. So unlike with Battlegrounds, I think this works a bit more like Fortnite. You don't have a parachute to pull, you just get to pinpoint your landing wherever you like. There's another guy just below me there. So basically what you have to do is just pinpoint wherever you like. So basically you want to land right by a door because the buildings have the loot. So if we drop right by this door, we can get hold of some stuff as soon as we can. Looks like we've got some company. Thankfully I managed to grab this sword before he could grab everything, and he's just turned into a chicken. We're just going to end him, grab his trophy, and didn't have any loot on him because unfortunately he didn't land quite quickly enough to take me to that chest. So we managed to finish him off after we grabbed that sword. Let's grab a few more things. Got ourselves a rifle, a piece of armour, and we got ourselves a second engineer spell, so we picked up that barrier spell as well. So I'm going to drop that healing totem now, so that's one of my engineer spells, get a few bit of health back. And I'm going to drop the barrier, which is going to save me a bit of health as well if he comes up to me again, but it looks like we've got more company. Drop our healing totem again, I can just keep replaying that, which is nice. So engineers are quite good at kind of hunkering down and defending themselves. Got a nice hit there. Looks like there's another guy outside, or has this guy just changed his mind? I was hoping for a bit of quiet to start with. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we're going to have that option. Let's drop our healing totem again. No point in not healing up while we can. That's a reusable ability, which is nice. So as long as we managed to grab ourselves 1 or 2 weapons, 2 weapon slots, we managed to fill both of those. And we managed to get a couple of spells as well, so we've got all our slots filled. And we've got a single piece of armour as well. I'm going to use my movement ability, which is thrust, as an engineer, so I can use my jump ability. That's the F key, so that's one of the unique kind of class-based mechanics. I'm going to knock that guy off his horse. Unfortunately, I thought that was this guy over here, but unfortunately that seems to be someone else. So the chicken mechanic, I will explain in a moment when I get a bit more time. Looks like this guy wants to push me. So you might be wondering why everyone's turning to chickens. There is good reasoning behind it, as odd as it may seem. Took a bit of damage as an engineer. My armour regenerates. Don't have too much armour, but it does regenerate itself, being an engineer over time, and I can heal myself with my ability. So it looks like we've got a few useful tools. Oh, Not as useful if you're not paying attention. Let's get a headshot, that's a fair bit of damage. I'm in serious trouble though. Oh, I managed to get him down, so he's now in chicken form. So basically what happens is with the chicken form, if you manage to do enough damage to someone to take them down so they lose all their health, they were going to turn into a chicken, so they're not going to die instantaneously. So even in a solo game, they will become a chicken. If you're a chicken, you can then run about for up to 30 seconds. If you survive for that 30 seconds, unfortunately for this guy, he did not, it's going to allow you to come back to life as well. So you do get a chance, even in a solo game, to come back with a chance if you can survive that 30 seconds. You are quite hard to hit, and you have a little bit of health. But you do have to try and survive things, which can be a little bit difficult if there's just someone bearing down on you and no one to distract you. So when it does become quite useful is if there's plenty of players around and you do turn into a chicken. Sometimes they can be too busy killing each other that they can't finish you off and you can just run away and escape. So if you're clever about it, you can kind of survive as a chicken. Also what happens, that means it kind of detracts and kind of disencourages kind of long range play. So if you have someone just pinging you from a sniper rifle or a long distance weapon, they're going to have a harder time of it, because if you turn into a chicken you can just hide and then respawn. So it kind of encourages you to actually go in and finish off your targets, which is nice. Right, so all that stuff I can't use. All these mage spells I won't be able to use because they are locked to a certain class. I am not going to be able to make use of those. So what I can do is, what I was talking about those shards earlier, I can disenchant those. I can go to a forge, which I do happen to have here in Icehaven. So any of these anvil icons on the map are a forge. I'm going to go up to that, hold that, and that gives me a chance to use the forge to create some legendary pieces of gear. So these little chicken trophies I picked up, you're going to need those to create stuff at the forge as well, and you're going to need the shards to create those as well. I'm going to use all 200 shards and my 2 chicken trophies and class myself a legendary class weapon, which is going to be very nice and very handy. So basically what I mean by legendary is each of the pieces of gear do have a kind of level mechanics. Basically what it means is, say my slug rifle here, which is the #1 slot, that is white, so that is a basic level piece of gear. My rifle here is green, which I just picked off of that guy, so that is a second level piece of gear. Epic is the purple stuff, such as my 2 pieces of armor. On my left I've got a epic level helmet and epic level boots. So it applies to spells, armor and weapons, so everything you can get has a kind of level mechanic. And you can get orange, which is legendary, which you have to do a little bit more work to get, because you've got to get some shards and go to a forge, and you have to try and forge yourself a piece of gear. Now on top of the 2 parameters for creating this piece of gear, I had the shards and I had the chicken trophies, which I picked up after those chickens were killed. So the players got turned to chickens, then they were killed in that form, so then they drop a chicken trophy, which you then needed to create the weapon. So that's after 60 seconds that has spawned. So let's pick up that and disenchant that because we don't need it anymore. So it took 60 seconds to actually forge that piece of gear, so you saw the timer going round. That timer doesn't only show on my screen, however. Now, so basically what that means is that timer is going to show up for every nearby player who isn't me as well. So basically say that I didn't kill that guy, I tried to force myself a piece of gear. If he comes within about this range, that timer would have appeared on his screen through that wall as well. So you don't even need direct line of sight to the forge to be able to see it. So he would have known someone is in the middle of creating a piece of legendary gear, and they're going to have to wait that remainder of that timer for that to actually be forged. So it is generally a 60-second timer for a legendary piece of gear to be forged, and you've got to watch out for the wall coming behind me as well, because I've got to avoid that because the circles are starting to constrict in the same way they do in Battlegrounds. So basically if you want to craft yourself a piece of legendary gear, it is very useful because they are excellent pieces of gear. You have to make sure you have enough shards, you have the resources, and you need to make sure you're going to defend that territory. Because when that item drops, it's also locked to that person who made it for 10 seconds. So when that item dropped, it was locked to me for 10 seconds, so someone can't just come in and grab it in that 10-second period. However, once that 10 seconds is up, anyone can pick that up. So if you fanny around, if you run around getting distracted, getting into fights, someone can come up in behind you, grab your piece of gear if you leave it behind, and they're going to be able to make full use of that. You've just spent it all to try to defend it, and you've just left it behind for them, so they're going to be able to use that piece of gear. So it is quite a nice cool way of firstly getting rid of all the pieces of gear you can't use because it's maybe locked to a class, or you're just not interested in using, or it's a lower tier weapon you already have, or you're just not interested in the weapon. You can get rid of all that stuff because that is a kind of staple of Battle Royale games, where you just have loads of gear that you don't actually want to use in the end because it's kind of low tier stuff. You have all the stuff you end up leaving behind. You can make use of that by getting some shards and creating some really nice gear. And secondly, it allows you to get some really good gear, but you actually have to defend it. You have to pay attention. You have to think about, is it safe to create this weapon? Am I going to have a bunch of people bearing down on me trying to nick it off me? and am I actually going to live to use it? So you've got to be careful. You have to think a bit tactically how to use it. So it's going to get on the horse again. So this is what this guy did. You press Z, you will get on the horse. So every player can do this. This allows you to move a bit longer. And this is the red circle I need to avoid. So in the top right, you can see the timer just under the mini-map is 1:38. So at that point, at the 1:38, when that timer runs out, that next wall, this red wall, is starting to moving in, and it's going to hit this white circle, exactly the same as it does in Battlegrounds. I'm not 100% sure how it works in Fortnite, or if H1Z1, if anyone's still playing that, if that uses a similar method. But basically what that means is that circle's going to come in, and it's going to hit the white circle. If I get caught on the wrong side of this red circle, I am going to start taking damage. And it's not an instantaneous death, however, I'm going to take damage quite quickly. It's going to make my life more difficult. I'm going to have to use my healing items. And if anyone else gets a drop on me while I'm in there, if they try and start shooting me while I'm stuck on the wrong side of the circle, that's going to be more damage, and I can't really stop and fight back because I'm going to be too busy trying to get inside the circle before it kills me. So you want to need to pay attention for that. It is avoidable if you keep an eye on it and you don't land too far away. And you've got your mount to run a bit quicker as well, but you just need to keep an eye on that. If you're paying attention, you should be fine, but that just keeps the game moving as well. That keeps all the players, make sure they eventually move towards each other. That circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it forces you into a tiny area. So basically, if you weren't familiar with that method, I think pretty much everyone knows how that works now. The circle method is, it basically just keeps the game flowing, keeps everyone moving, and makes sure they actually eventually get down to fighting each other. So not doing too badly at the moment, just got inside the circle, so I've got a bit of time to play with. I can go in some of these buildings that maybe haven't been looted yet. I can actually go back and do this one. Just need to keep a little bit of an eye out for the other players, but now I can maybe get to another forge. There's a forge just south of me here on the map. I maybe go to that forge and create myself some more gear. So there's nothing in here. Can we get up in these buildings? Is this a 4-story building? Now that beam of light is one of the airdrops that's just come in, so legendary gear also gets dropped by airdrops. So just intermittently, you will see airdrops come along. Again, same with Battlegrounds. I know it's not particularly many new mechanics, however, it's I suppose it's a tried and tested system is the defense of that. But basically, airdrops come in. If you can get to it by that pillar of light, you can get there and grab yourself a piece of legendary gear. However, bear in mind, same as with the forges, everyone's going to be going for it, so if you go for it, it's a high-risk option. You can get yourself some nice gear, however, you can get yourself killed by all the players who are trying to get there along with you. So it is kind of another tactical decision to bear in mind. Let's go into this building, nice vantage point. Use my thrust ability, hopefully I can get myself high enough. Just about made it, that was quite nice. Might be designed for that. Looks like it's been stripped out already, but we do have a nice vantage point of systems. Just while it's quite a few other things to talk about, just compared to other Battle Royale games, I do feel like the flow of this game is quicker, as in something like Battlegrounds. As much as I like Battlegrounds, it does feel a lot of the time, if you play carefully, that you have to wait 15-20 minutes to actually get to the interesting part of the game, when you have your gear and you're kind of in a good position and you get to kind of forced in by the circle because the map is quite big. However, in this situation, I feel the games run they kind of flow quite better. The game kind of progresses quite quicker. You don't feel like you're sitting around for ages doing nothing nearly as much as you are with some other titles, and it is quite nice. It just feels like either you're getting stuff kind of done, you're doing stuff constantly. That's partly to do with the shard system. I think the map's a bit smaller as well, but partly to do with the shard system, where all that gear I can always think about kind of stripping out some gear and then going to a forge and maybe going there and defending some gear, and then generally other players might turn up around that point. So with the shard system and the crafting system of making good gear during the game, it does feel like you have a few more things to kind of keep you occupied and a few more things to think about, and it just makes the game, it feels like it flows a bit quicker and there's less kind of downtime, which is a big problem with Battle Royale games. Being the patient person, trying to play them correctly can also lead to quite boring gameplay because you'd have to spend a lot of time faffing around, but it does feel like in this it is a bit kind of faster pace. It flows a bit better. It's a bit more interesting. There are still some times, like I'm doing now, where you just have to run around. However, it's not quite as bad as I'd say at some other games I've played, which is a nice touch as well. Haven't had too many difficulties, or any difficulty really running the game in terms of performance issues, the FPS drop, stuff like that. It seems to be okay. The odd basic glitch, but it actually seems to be fairly stable build. Haven't had any problems actually running the game. I will post, as I always do, my PC specs in the video description, so I can show those off. But I've got by no means a top-end PC. It's a decent PC, but it's by no means top-end, but it seems to have absolutely no issue running the game. It's not a particularly demanding-looking game, so I wouldn't have expected to have any performance issues, but I can report, despite the alpha state, it does seem to run quite well, which is nice. And lag, I've had a couple of lag situations. Normally it seems to be a case of kind of lag spikes around kind of high activity areas. So when everyone jumps out kind of the aircraft, when you first land, I do get a couple of lag spikes occasionally, just as everyone lands, and it kind of creates a lot of activity around the map. So you do get 1 or 2 spikes around them. But actually when you actually get into the game, I haven't had any real issues. So the server seems to be fairly stable again, which is nice. So just as I'm getting to kind of the last kind of parts of the game, we're getting kind of down to the last 7 people now. It is a game that by all means borrows from similar titles. It bears huge resemblance to Fortnite, as I said. If you actually watched it, and someone could convince you this was Fortnite if you didn't realise there was a new Battle Royale game called Realm Royale that had just come out on the Steam store. However, what it does do, it does well. I can't fault it for that. The class mechanics are quite nice. It does add a kind of little bit of uniqueness. The crafting mechanics, I think, are quite well. It runs quite nice. It's not difficult to run, and it's free to play as well. So it's got nothing to give it a try. It's not particularly difficult to run. You can give it a few games. If it doesn't work out, you've got nothing to lose. So, as I say, it doesn't do anything particularly new. It does a couple of new things in an already very saturated market with very kind of tried and tested formulas all over the place, but it does what it does well. It adds a couple of new features to the game in terms of the class mechanics and like the crafting mechanics, which I think are just nice little subtle but kind of impactful changes, I would say, is I think a fair way of putting that. But I can fault it for maybe borrowing from other titles. However, I can't fault it for not doing it well. I think it's a fair assumption then. So we'll just see how we do in the last 5 players. It hasn't been a particularly action-packed game. We had quite a bit of an exciting start, but we're down to the last 5 people. So maybe we can get some quick action. One final point I would make. I might get interrupted by a fight in a second because I'm recording the audio live. I would say is playing the very safe, patient route might not do you as well in the later part of the games as it will in others. This is another comparison to Battlegrounds. In Battlegrounds, I found you can play kind of very safely land in areas where there's not much stuff, play a very patient game, you just intermittently pick up a lot of gear, and eventually you'll have enough attachment, enough half-decent guns, enough ammo, enough reasonable gear that you can put up a decent fight at the end of the game. In my experience of Realm Royale, playing very, very safe at the start is eventually going to come back to haunt you, because although it is quite a interesting way, it is quite a useful tactic just not playing hyper aggressively. If you play too passively, due to stuff like the crafting mechanics, like crafting legendary gear, once you get down to the last dozen or so players, you'll tend to find loads of them will have really, really nice gear. They'll have full legendary sets, which gives you a huge amount of armor, really high damage weapons. If you play too defensive and you don't get enough nice gear on you, because there's different levels of gear as well, you don't search enough crates, get enough shards, craft enough gear, it is going to come back to bite you. I've found it's more difficult to counteract the fact that your opponent's going to have better gear than you if they played a slightly riskier game. You don't have to play super risky to get hold of it as well. You don't have to play hyper aggressive to get really good gear. You have to sport. You don't have to go to very high risk areas where. Let's pop a healing potion. It's a good opportunity to show those off. Take about 3 seconds to use a healing potion. Anything on here? That's an armor. You get armor potions as well, so I'll probably pop one of those. So you can't use these in the middle of a fight, which is a sensible decision, so it's going to take a few seconds to actually use those. Oh, and now become chicken, just about got taken out. So it looks like it's going to be a dead end for me, so I popped in 3rd place, which is a decent amount. Let's just take this guy into the end of the game. Got a couple of eliminations, so not embarrassing there. So as I say, this guy's got full legendary gear. You can see he's got these 2 orange weapons. This guy's playing a hunter. He's got 2 legendary spells. He's just got 1 green level spells as number 4. But as I say, when you get down to the last players, they all tend to get legendary gear, and you can also loot other players as well, bear in mind. So playing a bit more passively at the start can eventually come back to bite you. You do need at some point to think, right, I need to play a bit more risky. I need to make sure I'm getting enough crates. I need to make sure I get enough high-end gear, because this guy's got 1200 armor and health. You know, a legendary weapon. We've got a few hits on him, so put up a decent enough fight. He did get the drop on me as well. So that did give him the advantage, so I did quite a bit of damage while he first came in. So I was kind of going in after I'd taken a bit of damage off him. But it's going to put you at a massive advantage. He's got loads of health potions and a few armor potions as well. So it's down to the last 2 players. So the circle's forced everyone in to this last gap. So we'll see, I think, any moment now, the last guy. There he is there. Again, you can see the orange of the gear. Looks like I've got 2 hunters. They're going to snipe it out. There's a bomb down. Oh, nice shot in midair. That was a lovely shot. Oh, we got chickened, and that's the end of the game. So hopefully that was a clear enough explanation. Apologies if I did ramble a bit at times, but it does fill out the time of the video quite nicely. Thank you very much indeed for watching. If you like the video, please leave a like or subscribe. If you've got any other questions, leave them below in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed the content as always. Check out my other stuff. I thank you very much for watching. Realm Royale, Steam link is in the description below. It's free to play, so I'd recommend give it a go. I think it's a really nice little fun game. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.